Hi, I'm Natalie Smolenski. I'm founder and executive director of the Texas Bitcoin Foundation and a senior fellow at the Bitcoin Policy Institute. I want to take a few minutes today to outline what I see as the major political issues raised by CBDCs. And I can summarize the broader trend here as a merger of bank and state. This is a consolidation of all levels of banking with state regulation and oversight. Bitcoin offers the only meaningful alternative to this growing system of control. First, I want to start by cutting through some of the narrative around CBDCs. Governments around the world are positioning CBDCs as the better alternative to Bitcoin. But this alternative is really only better for governments, not for people. So let's take a look at some of the talking points about why CBDCs are supposedly necessary. Number one, CBDCs offer real-time settlement. This doesn't hold up to scrutiny because there are other technologies that already exist that offer real-time settlement. For example, FedNow, which is being rolled out this year, and the Bitcoin Lightning Network as the non-state alternative. Number two, financial inclusion. There are 1 billion or so people around the world who don't have access to the banking system. But the obstacles to these people creating accounts with banks are precisely the identity verification requirements that governments have mandated. In addition, many people can't afford to maintain minimum deposits or pay banking fees. And neither of these problems are problems that CBDCs will solve. In fact, CBDCs expand the identity verification requirements that are already in place. Number three, CBDCs will decrease income inequality. This is the most far-out claim. CBDCs are just another form of digital-based money. There is no redistributive project in any CBDC rollout anywhere in the world. So if these narratives are false, what do CBDCs actually do? Well, number one, CBDCs do provide a system to fully surveil financial transactions. ID verification for CBDC usage is a design requirement in every CBDC implementation in the world. This is not something that regulators or private actors building and implementing CBDC architectures will skip. As former chairman of the CFTC, Chris Giancarlo wrote in his recent book, quote, Fourth Amendment privacy protections have been eroded considerably since the attacks of September 11th, 2001. In fact, no account-based transactions are truly private because in every case, they require personal identity as a prerequisite step, unquote. CBDCs will only further enforce this practice. Number two, CBDCs do provide a system to control deposits and spending at the individual level, and even at the token level. CBDCs are fully programmable money, and that is why they represent a full merger of fiscal policy, monetary policy, and policing. This should lead us to ask whether monetary policy for individual people is really monetary policy at all. In reality, it's less policy and more policing. Similarly, money that can only be spent with the government's permission is not really money at all. Money is good for all debts, public and private. CBDCs are political tokens, not money. Number three, CBDCs do away with cash and enable the government to capture tax revenue from the informal economy. Those who are not included in the banking system transact primarily in physical cash. Many of those transactions are not currently taxed. And so by replacing physical cash, which is what CBDCs will eventually do, no matter what anybody says, governments intend to capture that additional tax revenue. The government of Nigeria, for example, has been explicit that this is their objective for the rollout of the e-Naira, the country's CBDC. Number four, CBDCs enable non-US countries to create an alternative to the US-dominated global financial system. After the United States froze Afghanistan's and Russia's sovereign reserves in recent years, governments around the world have understood that their FX reserves are not safe. And so different financial systems are being built out in response to the US-dominated global financial system. But what this means in the end is that government-issued money has become fully politicized. We are entering a world in which people can no longer freely save or spend their own money. It's clear that people around the world don't want CBDCs. In countries where they are being rolled out, people are refusing to use them, but eventually their usage will be mandated. This is why the existence of a non-state alternative, Bitcoin, is so important. Bitcoin is quickly becoming the only politically neutral form of money in the world, which people can spend and save as they see fit. That is why it is sometimes called freedom money. Bitcoin brings a direct ownership model of censorship-resistant digital assets to every person in the world. It mirrors physical cash in that it is a bearer asset that can be exchanged directly without identity verification. That is what makes it a guarantor of individual liberties at the protocol level. There is no one party or set of parties that controls the protocol. It's a complex set of game theoretic conditions that ensure that incentives remain appropriately distributed and balanced. Bitcoin enables direct peer-to-peer transacting using quote-unquote self-hosted wallets, which is a fancy term for a digital version of the physical wallet you carry around in your pocket. Bitcoin also serves as a monetary DMZ, or demilitarized zone, for states. So it represents a non-political alternative to the US-controlled and the BRICS-controlled financial systems. Central to the liberatory potential of Bitcoin is the fact that it represents a move away from the account model or bank-based model of digital asset custody. Anytime we're talking about a third-party, trusted custodian of digital assets, we're talking about a centralized implementation of public key infrastructure, or PKI, in which some custodian holds the private keys that determine ownership of an asset. Bitcoin is an implementation of decentralized PKI, meaning it represents a direct model of digital asset custody. The asset is custodied by the end user, who owns their private keys, and therefore they can operate in a self-sovereign manner. This is critical. Bitcoin is not a bank, and it has no customers. That is why there cannot be know your customer requirements for the use of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a tool. Tools create inclusion as people freely adopt them. The takeaway here is that liberty is a bottom-up process. As governments around the world move forward with implementing CBDCs using top-down coercion, having a liberty-oriented alternative like Bitcoin will be key to ensuring that a space for freedom continues to exist. Thank you.